The Daily. Hey, Sarah, good morning and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
You were surprised. You're welcome. And you're probably surprised. What is Richard doing this morning as part of my intro? But you posted, you're like, wait a minute. You guys.
No, actually, what I was thinking, Richard, is that these times have radicalized all of us. I have never spoken that way in my writing in general, but I will tell you that I've been sorely tempted by the Bulgarian in chief. So it is radicalizing all of us. So not a surprise.
Well, what you guys don't know, what I'm referring to, and what Sarah is humbly referring to, she had a great article that she posted that is entitled "Top Democratic Congressman Shatters Tulsi Gabbard's Lie About Prosecuting Obama," and essentially what Representative Jim Hines from Connecticut was saying is that it's a lie, it's a flat out lie, and that what Tulsi Gabbard is doing. And again, I'll let Sarah speak to this to her degree, is just another form of distraction. But in this case, it's also a lie. So, let's share a little bit of your thoughts about your article, Sarah.
Well, I would like to, I think distraction is the name of the game. That's distraction, deflection, and projection. This is always the Trump move, and it's gotten really stale, though. And I just want to give a quote from a senior administration official that was in Rolling Stone, because this will just crystallize everything. That this tells the story about why Tulsi Gabbard is going into the racist dog whistle of prosecute Obama, put him in jail, Quote, "This week was a big kick in the balls," a senior administration official bluntly notes. "It was a lot to deal with, and there were many emotions." Yeah, and those emotions, because they cannot get control of their own base, have led to this frantic, desperate attempt to distract. So what they did was too racist. That's where he always goes, right? He's always going to dip down into racism because that's what usually coalesces his base. So he went for Obama, and he also went for, you've got to go back to your racist names for these sports teams. So in terms of what Tulsi Gabbard is trying to say about Obama, which is a big, huge lie, what you take away from all that is that the Epstein, his failures and his lies about the Epstein files have been so destabilizing to his base that they cannot coalesce around racism or any new conspiracies, which is very unusual for Donald Trump. He is usually able to point over here, and then his whole base turns, and that's where they move. So he's, pointing arrest Obama, and he thought all the MAGA influencers and everyone else would follow his fingers, but they're not. And just to make sure everybody knows, Tulsi Gabbard's trying to do like a sleight of hand thing where she mentions nobody said, the intel, everybody knew that Russia didn't hack the election. Right. That is true. Everyone knew that Russia did not literally hack the election. And they said that then. Yep. They didn't manipulate the voting machines, right? They didn't alter the election results. They did, however, disseminate hacked emails from the DNC. They conducted an influence campaign against Hillary Clinton, and they did all that to help Donald Trump. And that did happen. He will never admit that. It happened. His own people met with, people who had connections to Putin.
Well, I mean,
these things happened.
I'm sorry, Sarah, do you remember the conversation that's now kind of blown over, the conversation about the meeting that they had, I believe it was at Trump Tower, and Don Jr. talked about having that information on Hillary would be great. I'm not quoting it exactly, but that'd be great to have. Yeah. So right. The Tulsi Gabbard thing, if you want to call it that, but the Tulsi Gabbard recklessness is maybe a better, more educated word to use, or adult word to use, is clearly what you said. And what strikes me about this is what's so, awful about where she is that this is a person who herself has had interactions with the same leaders of the country. And that's the crazy hypocrisy of it all. And I look at that and I just think the word that comes to my mind is wow. Talk about the, pot calling the kettle black in terms of associations or not. But to your point, clearly President Obama made it clear that they didn't literally hack the election, but they had influence. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, the whole thing, like, why are they always whataboutisms? Let's talk about Obama. Obama hasn't been president for a long time. Let's not talk about Obama. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous. And he was also a very good president, according to experts who determine how a president conducted themselves and whether or not their presidency was successful, and whether or not it upheld laws. So these are all things Donald Trump can't claim. He is a failed president. No one is going to ever say that he had a good presidency. So why they always want to point fingers and talk, they're just so childish. And I would say about her, it's a good thing you pointed that out. Of course, it's the hypocrisy, the projection. This is all deliberate. These are not accidental things that everything is, oh my God, what these people, why are you being so hypocritical? I mean, look at their obsession with the Epstein files, and yet they're not saying what we all know to be true.
That's exactly right.
Why don't you have all this information? Gee, I wonder why.
And if you're the group that's supposed to be leading the country on all conversations, and everybody's supposed to yield and genuflect to your greatness, then why the chaos and the turmoil over this Epstein situation? And what I'm curious to find out, since we're talking about Russia, is what sort of Russian involvement is there in this Epstein situation? And I call it a situation because I don't know what the other better words would be. And this Epstein tragedy maybe is a better word. But how much is Russia? And again, granted, for everybody, I'm saying this with a little bit of a speculative tone. But does Russia have some involvement in this Epstein tragedy? And what I mean by that is this: not literally, but Trump's part as it relates to let's pull this one out of the dusty cabinet, the PP tape, and all of his potential misdeeds while he was in Russia. And so, sorry, I don't know.
No, I think, I can't remember. He has so many scandals that
that's the part.
I never believed the PP tape thing. But that's not to say it's not true. I think there's a lot that Putin has on him for sure. But it's interesting that you bring that up, because look at the timeline. It was just several weeks ago that Donald Trump, claimed that he has finally figured out that Putin might not be on our side, might not be on his side. And why did that happen, right? Because we all knew, everyone's been telling that he should know Russia is a hostile nation to the United States and to democracy and to Western democracy. Everyone's been telling him that, but he is one of those people who is probably the least intelligent person in the room, and therefore can't figure out that he is not the most intelligent. He always thinks that he is the most intelligent person in the room because he is so limited cognitively. And I say that, and it's not meant as an insult to him. This is just a fact. He is not very intelligent. He is very wily. He is very crafty. He is very good at being sort of a mafia boss. He's very good at forcing people to do things against their will and using the legal system to abuse people. But that does not mean that he's intelligent. And I mean, he cannot take concepts learned here and apply them to a new situation. He just doesn't have, so he never learns that he was wrong last time and that he believed a conspiracy last time. So what can he do differently? He doesn't ever think that way because he's not very intelligent. So why did he? What happened? Well, what happened is that what they claim happened is that Melania told him that Putin isn't very nice. Why did she say that? Because after he got elected this time, Putin had something to do or brought up her nude modeling photos. Which was very undermining thing to do. I mean, I do remember the Russian media talking about that a lot and laughing at her and laughing at him. And so I think that if they were, so he just said, gee, I think, Putin isn't very nice. And I think maybe maybe he's not right about this war. That's just what he's.
It's the latest.
We don't ever know, actually. We don't actually know what he's thinking because he doesn't ever really finish a sentence, and he has these phrases, right, where he can't be held accountable for anything. But it seemed like he might have been suggesting that maybe Putin was wrong in the war. So this would be an ideal time for Putin to bring up this Epstein file thing and to make that, to disseminate these talking points in the right wing influence sphere. Yes.
I think that part of the reason that he's trying to create that, and first of all, it's the latest thing he heard. We all know we've seen it in terms of how Donald Trump operates. The latest thing that he's heard is what comes out of his mouth in the next time he's in a public space. And sometimes it's to your point, it's disconnected from anything close to reality. However, I think that the situation with Tulsi Gabbard and her need to go after President Obama and others is purely a distraction from the ominous elephant that's in the room when it comes to Trump and his misdeeds. And the biggest misdeed the phrase, it's not the crime, it's a cover up. And now the cover up is spreading to other folk. And you wrote and I'm making a little bit of a pivot intentionally because I know that you've got something to say about this. And by the way, folks, we're talking with Sarah Jones of Politicus USA and The Daily. Sarah, talk a little bit about, as we talk about cover up, and it's not the crime, but it's a cover, but talk a little bit about an article that you posted on Mike Johnson is engaged in a Trump and Jeffrey Epstein cover up. Let's chat about that a little bit.
Well, do you mind if I say something before we get into that? I appreciate that. I just, I hear that everyone is talking about this whole Epstein thing, and what I feel is left out of this conversation. And as a woman, I really want to censor this for a moment for everyone that's listening. This is about elites taking advantage of women and girls, and they've been allowed to do that by this corrupt legal system. Corrupt politicians. And Epstein didn't even deny doing these things, but he compared it to stealing a bagel. And for all the women and the girls in this country who have been really struggling, because all of this is very triggering for women. Most women they know somebody or it's happened to them. They have been on the side of being dehumanized in this culture. And that is the leitmotif of Donald Trump's existence. He dehumanizes women and girls. He's done it from sexualizing his young daughter to becoming an adjudicated sexual assaulter to burying his former wife and mother of his children on a golf course for a tax break. And the only people who have paid any price for the Epstein file, the Epstein horrible sex trafficking and abuse and rape of young women and of girls are women.
Yeah.
Ghislaine Maxwell. And I just want to say for everyone, I see you. I know how hard this is. It's so wrong. This is an injustice of such epic proportions to have a president who we all knew this was who he was. And all of these people supported him. And it is a horrible thing every day for women and girls to know that and to live in this culture. So I just want to, I just wanted to put that out there.
No, thank you for that, Sarah. And I said to myself, I wish that I had been more in line with that from the beginning. And then we talk about the political parts of this, but at the end of the day, you're right for reminding us that this is about human beings who were taken advantage of, women, specifically young girls, as well. And at the end of the day, that is really the story. That's what really matters in this, is that.
Yeah, but nobody talks about it, and that's what's so disturbing.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, and I appreciate you pressing a pause on, no matter the cover up, no matter the all this other stuff. Politically, at the end of the day, it was about wealthy people, elite people taking advantage of others less than them monetarily or economically, not less than them from a human being standpoint. Mayor Johnson here in Chicago has used a phrase at our 20th anniversary about regaining our humanity, and that the Democratic Party has the opportunity to do that. And in this conversation, Sarah, to your point, this is about regaining our humanity.
Armed, masked people kidnapping people off the streets of the United States of America. So if they aren't successful in separating us from our humanity, if they do not manage to make us hate one another, then we will come together, because not left or right, but up or down,
Yep.
And they are very afraid that we will come together, that we will, and I think that is one of the cracks that's happening with the Epstein file scandal. Now, not to suggest that I think that MAGA is going to find a center based in reality when they eventually leave Donald Trump. I don't think that they're going to. Most of them are not going to get comfortable in reality, but some of them will.
Yeah,
and it may be enough, But I think a lot of this is like the Tea Party people. They have been going from one kind of charismatic, cultish type leader full of hate to another. And they've based all of this, it's all based on conspiracy. So here's Speaker Johnson, right? Very far, right. I think one of the, he's kind of in that whole Seven Mountains mandate. He's in this like dominionist Christian worldview that colors the Heritage Foundation. So I think a lot of people think, oh, he's not that. Well, he is that. Yeah. He is the better dressed, better spoken version of that than Donald Trump. Yeah. But he is absolutely all of those things. And the country is not in good hands when Speaker Johnson is at the helm. And we can see that because he is using all of these procedural moves. He is using all of his power in the House to suppress the Epstein files.
And what's crazy about that, as we wrap up, is for someone who claims to have this particular, way of being when it comes to religion and faith and God and Christianity and all the other words that we put into this, he's absolutely what he's doing is absolutely in opposition from every religious scholar that is far more educated and aware and well-read on Christianity, on faith, on humanity than he ever could be. They're all saying the same thing, those that are critiquing him. What you're doing is, in fact, opposite of what you say you practice and what you believe in. And that's the other hypocritical. We talk about Tulsi Gabbard and her hypocrisy, and now we talk about Johnson and his hypocrisy, covering up, blocking.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah. No. I just worshiping false gods. Donald Trump is his God, and that is who he worships. So all of this effort, taking away food, from babies, to suppressing the Epstein files, all of these things he's doing in service of Donald Trump. He is not doing them in service of his faith. He is not doing these things in service of God, in service of Jesus, which he claims, that's who he claims to worship. But it's very clear that that's not who he worships. He worships Donald Trump and MAGA. He worships being the worst kind of human being that it is possible to be on this entire planet.
Yeah. And it's the hurtful part of it is, he would rather trade for Donald Trump against his own elected constituents that elected him, And then all the rest of the people in the country take a back seat to him praising Donald Trump and running cover for Donald Trump. And it doesn't surprise me though, Sarah, because I want to circle back to what you said about humanization and dehumanizing. For decades, if not centuries, and I'll go back to enslavement, that's been the playbook, not part of, but that's been the playbook when it comes to taking away humanity. If we can do that and dehumanize people, and I say that specifically about my culture and community, and we can do the same thing with women, it makes them look like the bad person, the enemy, the ugly one, the disgusting one. And we can, by further dehumanizing them, which is happening with these raids, then we can get other people to think that those are the bad people, those are the awful people. And guess what? Because we've dehumanized them, they're not godlike. So we have the right to make this our platform and to further dehumanize them. And that is what the Republican Party stands for right now, nothing else.
That is exactly right. And I'm so glad you brought up enslavement as an example, because there isn't really a more perfect example of that in our country and our history. And we see this in the modern day through our policing. So these ideas, this dehumanization of other people, all of that, of course, is used by the elites to divide those of us that are not in the top 1%, is to keep us all fighting one another and fighting for survival and being dehumanized so that they can basically rob us. That is how that's always worked, and that is what it is, a tool of manipulation. And I think it's been very crystallized here in terms of what they just passed with the quote big beautiful bill. To steal from all of us for their own benefit. And what are they doing to distract and to justify this? Is they are dehumanizing wide swaths of people, of the population. And in terms of women, and in terms of Speaker Johnson, he is someone who thinks that abortion is evil. What is evil? He is over here covering up the sexual abuse and sexual trafficking of children.
Yeah.
And he's going to sit here and tell women that they are some kind of horrible person because they want control of their bodies when they're raped or somebody in their family commits incest against them.
Yeah.
And then they end up pregnant. You see, it's all, to me, this is all, as you put this so perfectly, but it is all full. It is what they are. There is no other story. This is the story.
That's it.
And it is really awful.
And that's why we are fortunate to have, and I say this all the time, and I thank you for this. Folks, speak your voice. Make your message known. Do not sit on your hands. Do not sit on your work.